Good morning, people. This is Daniel Fitzgerald. I'm going to post this very short video on YouTube today. I'm going to upload it. My videos are still privatized, and I mentioned this to the Russian Federation, who has our case file, that Canada is refusing to stop privatizing all my videos. On YouTube, they're trying to stop the public from knowing all the criminal acts committed against us and Nazi policies. I had to call the Canadian Ontario Premier Doug Ford's office twice today. The second time I called, I had to remind the Premier of Ontario, Canada, that his local security here, meaning the police service, have no jurisdiction over my contact with embassies here. There is a division between territorial and federal here, and security here is not respecting that at all. I want to report that yesterday I had to go to the Russian embassy here. Saturday, of course, the embassy was closed. That didn't matter because the information that I had for them was very special and actually kind of miraculous, so to speak, which involved a NATO state planning an event that would cause a nuclear war, okay, against the Russian Federation. Now, I was going to wait until Monday, the 26th of August, and call the Russian Federation first here and let them know that I was going to come down. It would be the first time that I would have provided them some form of envelope with information in it in quite some time. Because that particular activity I've stopped because the Russian Federation already has most of the damning evidence against Canada's governments and their authorities. So it was very important for me to go down there and give them this, and it was very important for it to reach the Kremlin. And I believe in what I found out as accurate, and so I did the right thing. You know, I drove my scooter down to the Russian embassy yesterday in the afternoon, or was it the morning? I can't remember, but it was sometime between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I buzzed their buzzer twice. I know that it was closed. I did see a vehicle in there. I do believe they have a security official in there on the weekends when they're closed because the urgency of the information. I was going to wait till Monday, and I thought, no, because this information is so dangerously urgent, I needed to take it down there right away. And I did the right thing. The action had nothing to do with Canada. It had nothing to do with our case against Canada. It had to do in regards to the conflict against Russia by NATO, okay? And that's all it was. So after I went there and buzzed, there was no answer, probably because the security official wasn't at his desk. And so I threw the letter through their fence. And I came home right away. I called them twice and, very forcibly told the security official, look, you got to go outside right now and get that letter. You got to call your ambassador's residence, let him know he needs to see this right now. And it needs to be reported to Moscow. And I called twice and told him that, and that was it. So then after that, I was home and I said to my wife, Jennifer, we have these trucks here called mission trucks. They go around on Fridays and Saturdays and they park somewhere and poor people line up to get a meal. Sometimes 30, 40 people. It's like a catering truck, but it's a great big one. So I said to my wife, well, Jennifer, do you want me to go to the trucks? And my wife said, sure, okay. We don't normally really do that, but this time around we decided to do that. And I said, okay, well, I'll go down. Where is it? So my wife told me where it was. She told me to go down Rideau Street to Friel, make a right turn, and the food truck would be down by this school. So I got on my scooter to go back downtown. I wasn't going to the Russian embassy. And I found myself being, targeted by the police. I got to Rideau and Charlotte Street. The Russian embassy is on Charlotte Street. And I was, when I got to the intersection, here's the police, right? So then I made a right turn down Charlotte Street going north, because the Russian embassy is at the end of Charlotte Street on the south side, which is about half a kilometer away. So I made a right turn down Charlotte Street, and it's an apartment block going north, and I went through the driveway of the building, came back out, and got on the street. By that time, this police vehicle went down Charlotte Street. When I got to the intersection, he was going down Charlotte Street, okay, when I made my turn, and I came around. And then at some point before the Russian embassy, he turned around and came back. And he's sitting at the light as I'm about to make a right turn onto Rideau to go west down to Friel Street, okay? So then I go down Rideau to Friel Street to make a right turn to go, according to my wife's instructions, to the school, to the food truck. And there's a police car runs in front of me. He makes a right turn in front of me down Friel Street, goes down to the end of the cul-de-sac. He can't get through because it's blocked by barriers and sidewalks. So I'm behind him, and I go down there. He's parked there on my right side at the cul-de-sac. He cannot go straight through it. So I went over the sidewalk and through the barriers on my scooter to the food truck. So I was deliberately followed. All right, and I don't appreciate that. My business with any embassy here in Ottawa is my business. Okay, and the police have no right to try and intimidate me from going to an embassy here. It's an international matter. It's got nothing to do with the territorial government of Ontario, unless there's criminal proceedings against the territorial government of Ontario and Quebec through their parties on Parliament Hill, who are federal. Then that's a different story. Okay, they have no right. The Ottawa Police Service is a local police department. Along with their provincial colleagues, they have no right to interfere, intimidate, follow me, or try to intimidate me for going to an embassy. They have no right whatsoever to do that. Okay? So we have a criminal case against Canada, as I've already stated, and it's a big one, all right? And we're going to pursue that no matter what. And I'm going to be pressuring the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Moscow to try and convince their ambassador here and his staff to start doing something about our case and publicly recognizing it and giving statements to the Canadian people publicly. We would really appreciate if Ambassador Stepanov would finally step into the ring, and say something publicly. And I think they will. I have a good relationship with the Russian Federation in Moscow. Their embassy here knows our situation. They would never call the police on my wife and I. They just wouldn't do it. Okay? Never. And they never have. They have never specifically told me ever to not contact their embassy. They have never ever told me not to come to their embassy. They have never done that. And they're not going to change that. So Canada, buzz off. It's up to the Russian Federation. If they complain to federal security, and they say, well, can you please have a talk with Mr. and Mrs. Fitzgerald on the Russian government's behalf and ask them to stop coming to our embassy and stop calling us, then that's when I would stop. The Russians have never done that, and I thank them so kindly from the bottom of my heart for never ever doing that. They didn't need to anyway. Okay? So I'll continue to call the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Moscow. The Russian government in Moscow asked me to send emails to a particular email address. I believe it was, I can't even remember the address, DSO at mid.ru, or maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it's FSO or something like that. I don't know. So I got to call them again soon and ask them to give me the address again. If they say DSO, I sent emails per their request to that address. Maybe I got the wrong address. I don't think so, but it's slightly possible. I'm pretty sure he said Delta Sierra Oscar at mid.ru. And I never got a response twice. It's 3 months now since the first time I was told to send them an email, and I never got a response from the Russian Federation because Canada's blocking it. Okay? I do warn Canada in this, I'm going to upload this in a minute. I'll keep it down to 12 minutes. I do warn you, Canada, and your security, and you, Mr. Prime Minister, and you, Poilievre, along with your provincial colleagues. I warn you all that you're persisting in something which is going to get you into trouble at the end. because I believe the Russians are going to say something if you don't stop. Okay? And it's not going to be nice. And they should say something anyway, regardless of whether you stop or not. And I believe they will. So there you go. Answer my question, Mr. Ford, about my daughter, Lara Danielle Fitzgerald. I have requested your office this morning. Provide my daughter, Lara Danielle Fitzgerald, Mr. Premier, contact her right away and give her our phone number, email address, and home address, Mr. Premier, and also to provide us her contact information by email or by phone number, whatever the case may be. I expect the province of Ontario to stop using the legislation as a means to block that. It doesn't matter whether the legislation was unintentional or intentional. The bottom line is the legislation by the Conservative government of Ontario absolutely plays no part whatsoever in helping parents who have lost their children when they were babies from finding their children and contacting their children when they're of adult age, and our daughter is 18. So I made that point. I also pointed out to the Premier's office that my brother, Robert Scott Fitzgerald, gave me $15,000 in December 2023, and he gave me $7,000 then and $8,000 in January in my mother's estate. He told me that the rest was coming after the Revenue Canada sorted out my mother's income tax returns. He told me the rest would come to me. And then when I started calling him on it, he starts telling me that he wants my social insurance number. The rule of thumb with the governments of Canada is you don't give out your social insurance number to anyone, period. I told him no. Why? I kept asking him, well, why do you want my social insurance number? He refused to tell me. Okay? So I said to him, well, I'm not giving you my social insurance number, Scott. I'm not going to give it to you. No. And I also indicated to him by email, you're responsible to pay the taxes on the estate since you were given the executorship, apparently. You're responsible for that, not me. I'm not giving you my social insurance number. So I kept bugging him in emails, asking him why he wanted my social insurance number. So he's so angry, he turned around and finally said to me, the Attorney General wants your social insurance number. Okay, that's garbage. So then he said to me, he's not going to give me any more money until I provide him my social insurance number. Okay, and then when I persisted in not giving it to him, then I blocked his phone number. He tried to call me, and then I blocked his phone number because he's threatening me, and I don't like being threatened. So then after I blocked his phone number, he sends me an email saying that he's not going to give me one red cent until I provided my social insurance number, and then he says he's cutting off all my calls and emails. I'm going to block them. That's what he said. So 2 weeks ago, now I think it was about 2 weeks ago, I contacted the Welland, Ontario court, and in the evening I left a message with a secretary who, I don't know, works for the judges or whatever. It's in their voice system. And I made it clear to the court that my brother is ripping me off from my estate. I'm entitled to 50%. I told him that he did not provide me details, financial details from banks and institutions on debts my mother owed. He never provided me the total sum of what was left in the estate for us to split 50-50. I requested this information from him. He didn't provide it at all, period. He wouldn't tell me anything. Okay? And I told the court that he decided that he was not going to give me the rest of my money, which is about somewhere between $35,000 and $50,000, unless I provided him my social insurance number. And I told the court in a recording that he decided that he was not going to talk to me any further, and he decided to cut off my phone calls and emails, and he can't do that. So I told the court that they need to do something about that. And that was it. And I never received a response. Also, I pointed out to Premier Ford that when the estate court made the final decision regarding the executorship, I was never notified. I was never notified by mailed letterhead from the court to our box number at the post office downtown on Rideau in Sussex, underneath Hudson's Bay. I was never informed by email the judge's final decision. Nothing. How can you appeal a decision by a court when they don't even send you their decision? And I told the court this. I said, you never sent me the judge's decision on the executorship. I never got nothing. So if I didn't get anything, but the court approved of my brother's application for executorship. Okay? That's the bottom line. So I complained about that, and these are legitimate complaints. And the Premier of Ontario is not looking into it. As far as I know, his office has not contacted me and my wife to let me know if he's looking into that, plus the ridiculous legislation. The legislation on contacting your children when they were taken away from you as babies, and they become adults, they're adult age. I'm sorry, but the legislation in Ontario makes it impossible for our daughter to ever contact us, or for her to contact, or for us to contact her. The adoption portion of the Children's Aid Society in Ontario, who my wife and I had a conference call with, the gentleman told us, he said, do you have an account on Facebook? I said, well, yeah, but I don't use it. It's too complicated. And I said, why? He said, well, so your daughter can search Facebook. What? How's my daughter going to find her father on Facebook? She doesn't have my name. She doesn't know anything about me. She doesn't even know what I look like. Why is he telling us that for? That's garbage. But I told him, well, I have a YouTube account, and he said, well, you should post a video on YouTube for your daughter. And I did. Okay. I gave my our phone number, address, email address in the 58-minute video for our daughter, Lara Danielle Fitzgerald, born July 17th, 2006 in Grace Hospital in Vancouver, BC. This was almost 2 weeks ago now, or a week or so ago, and still nothing. I have 5 views on the video, and I'm going to tell you something, folks. All the wrong people view the videos. Okay? So, Doug Ford's legislation is designed so that you'll never find your children, and they'll never find you. My wife wanted to look through all the high schools' graduation books and student books of Toronto. When she looked it up, there's over 100 high schools in Toronto. 100, okay? She said it's like a needle in a haystack trying to go through them all. And there was no photos or nothing. So, okay? So obviously, it's clear to me. And the other thing I wish to mention here is that we don't know. According to what I know, they said that our daughter was adopted in 2008, 7-8. No, she wasn't. I found out when she was around somewhere between 9 and 10 years old. My daughter was in an orphanage. This was confirmed to me. So, they're lying. They're not going to tell us where she is or tell us what's become of her, because I believe they don't know. I think she left the orphanage, and they're lying. I don't believe our daughter Lara was adopted. They'd have to prove it to us by showing us the adoption documents. And, of course, I would have to contact the adoptive parents to make sure they're telling the truth, and I would request a picture. I'd also like to point out the Children's Aid Society of Toronto on Isabella Street in around 2007-8. They sent a photo to my mother, Ruth Patricia Fitzgerald, in Crystal Beach, and the photo was of our daughter and what is claimed to be our son, Sebastian. My mom held on to the photo, and finally she decided when we were there in 2017-18 that she wanted us to have the photo. Okay, so it was before that. She actually mailed it to us, the photo that they sent her. When my wife and I looked at the photo of the two of them, it became very clear to both of us the little boy in the photo was not Sebastian, because the little boy in the photo, folks, had no hair. Our son Sebastian, born July 11th, 2007 at Trillium Medical Center, he had a full head of hair, brown, bushy hair, a full head of hair. I'm not kidding. This boy in the photo, and I'll show you the photo. I'll have to get my wife to, I'll show you the photo. I already did. I've got it in my videos, actually. If you look up my video on YouTube, about our daughter, Lara Danielle Fitzgerald. Look up Danielle Fitzgerald on YouTube, put it in the search engine, and look for an orange circle with a white D in it. And my video's there for our daughter, okay? And you can see the photo of her and her apparent brother, who's not her brother, okay? So what happened to my son, Sebastian? Why did they put another baby in his place next to my daughter claiming? And the other thing, too, is it makes sense because what they did was on July 12th, when they came in and took our son in the hospital, 24 hours after he was born, before they did that, my wife bought one of those throwaway cameras. We took photos of our son, Sebastian, okay? And when they came in and took him, it was a devastation. My wife and I were crying for 2 days in the hospital. The staff were very nice and told us, whatever they could do to make us feel better. They were very good about it. And when we left the hospital, we didn't have the camera. And so when we got home 2 days later, my wife and I called the hospital and called the birth ward, and we asked the head nurse, look, we left the camera there with photos of our son in it. And then they said they would call us back. They looked for the camera and they called us back and said, well, the camera's not here. CAS took it. Why'd they take it? Didn't just disappear. Where'd the camera go? There's no way on this earth that the hospital staff would throw the camera out. They know it's photos of our baby. And they simply told us they couldn't find it. Well, CAS stole it. That's what happened. They took it. Okay? And so the photo of our son with a full head of hair is gone. Why did they steal the camera? Because they didn't want our son identified, okay, with a full head of hair. Anyway, it's a big issue, and again, tomorrow I'll be calling the Russian Federation here. They're on the Security Council, and they're with the UN, and something's going to be done about this, okay? Something has to be done about Canada's activities, and Canada needs to answer truthfully for what exactly happened. We don't know if our daughter and son are alive or dead, and I'm not buying what the CAS is saying about the adoption. Not at all. If the CAS wants, they can have the adoptive parents call my wife and I, at which point we're going to request photos of our daughter and also DNA tests, okay, to make sure that these are our children. Someone is lying. This case is a case of a cover-up of things that we don't know about by the Children's Aid Society of Ontario. So the Premier of Ontario, I've contacted him several times about this matter. My wife wrote a letter to the Premier's Minister of Children and Families. And it was his department that put us in contact with some adoption person who emailed my wife, and then he said the emails to my wife bounced back to him regarding a scheduled appointment for a conference call. When we had the conference call and he called, his number was hidden so that we couldn't call him back. And the reason why they do that, the reason why we possibly believe that they did that, and we're not sure, it's very suspicious that it's a private number. And it's very suspicious simply because we could reverse the number and find out the exact location and whom called us. And I'm wondering now if they don't want us to know who called us. The gentleman was very nice on the phone. He told us we were good people and a good family. That being said, where's my daughter? I said to him, look, someone has to break the rules. And if they know where my daughter is, they have to tell her, somehow give her a secret message how to contact her parents. It's obvious to me now that she's never going to be able to contact us because the government's stopping this. So I'm going to make a big stink about that next week with the Russian Federation. And something has to be done here against Canada. The Russian Federation is our only real hope for this. They have our evidence, and that's probably the reason why they allow us to contact them, because they have our side of things, redacted, of course. A big file we gave them. I did the best I could with the file under the greatest stress. The RCMP were hanging around our building, hacking my laptop and my printer, and they're able to do that. And I warn the public of that as well, that they're doing these things illegally. And they made it very difficult for me to type up from memory our case file on our daughter and what happened in BC's Grace Haunt. They made it very difficult. You don't forget these things. So I'll leave it now. The video is 25 minutes. I'll post it now. And listen to me, Mr. Premier of Ontario, and you, Trudeau, and you, Mr. Poilievre. Listen to me, gentlemen. At the end of the day, you people are going to be in big trouble. If this goes to the media by my Russian friends, you people are hooped, and not even NATO, Trudeau, is going to protect you on this one, so forget it. Okay? I requested this morning that Doug Ford get his minister to hand my wife and I over the contact information for our daughter. I've requested that, rightfully so. Thus far, like I say, we appreciate the Minister of Children and Families responding. My wife wrote the minister a letter about this. My wife took a lot of time and a lot of thought in writing it to him. We do appreciate his response in giving us the name of the person we needed to contact, but unfortunately, that didn't pan out. So I've asked the Premier again this morning a couple of things regarding our daughter and the rest of my estate from his corrupted court, okay, and my brother. I've asked him already to take action already several times in phone calls to his legislation phone number for the legislators. No response. Okay, so there you go. If I sound a bit impatient on this, yeah, I am, because I say to the public, we contacted the Children's Aid Society in Toronto over the last 3 or 4 years, requesting them to hand over our phone number to our daughter, Lara Danielle Fitzgerald, and have her call us, okay? Or give her our address, put her on a bus, and send her here, okay? And they're refusing to comply. And also I wish to indicate, according to the UN Charter of Rights of the Child, go look it up, the Ontario government's violating the rights of our child in our little... I know that our daughter, unless she's been lied to, and she has not been told that her adoptive parents, if there is such a thing, which I have some doubt about, reasonably. Let me explain this further. About 5 or 6 years ago, I'm a religious Christian Orthodox Jewish person, but I'm also quite the religious warrior. I'm not one to go to church and pray and be humble and not say anything and not get angry. I'm not like that. Okay, I'm a warrior kind of Christian Orthodox Jewish person. So I pray on the Sabbath. I light my menorah every Friday. It's lit right now for Sunday. I light it on Saturday all day long until it gets dark. But I start on Friday night with this. When the sun goes down, I light my menorah, 2 candles on Friday nights. And then on Saturday, I'll light 3 of them, one in the daytime, one around dinner time, and one before it gets dark. Okay? And then on Sunday, I light one for Jesus. That's what I do. And about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I prayed. I pray every Friday night before I go to sleep. I have my kippah in my pocket. I have 5 kippahs. And I prayed, and I had this vision. Okay? And in the vision, what I saw was our daughter. She was about 9 or 10 years old, and she was sitting at a little children's table with little seats. And there was her and 5 or 6 other children. What had happened was CAS had contacted me, and they told me to come and pick her up. Now, here's the thing. I remember in the vision, I went to this building, and I went down this stairwell, okay? And they answered the door, and the ladies and I saw the children, and my daughter's back was facing me in the vision I had. And the lady said to me, she said, "Which one of these children is yours?" That's what she said to me. And I looked, and I saw a little girl with a sweater on, a sweatshirt, like a heavy one, And on the back of her sweatshirt were the words "killfish." Killfish. That was the word on the back of her sweatshirt. And I said to the lady, "That's my daughter." And then I woke up from the vision, and she was 9 or 10 years old. So, I believe in the visions. They're miraculous. They're lying. CAS, you're lying. You did not adopt my daughter. Now, stating that, where is she? Where is she? Find her. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to call the Russian embassy tomorrow. And then after that, I'm going to call the Russian Foreign Ministry in Moscow, maybe a week or so from now in Russia. And I'm going to tell them for their embassy to contact any private investigators here. And I'm going to ask the Russian government to find my daughter here. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. We need their help. I'm going to ask them to use whatever resources they can as a favor to my wife and I. And I'm going to ask them to get their embassy to hire several private investigators and for them to bill Canada, the government of Canada, I'm going to ask them to bill the government of Canada, send them bills for them having to hire investigators on our behalf to find my daughter. And they will, Mr. Premier, Doug Ford, and you, Poilievre, and you, Justin Trudeau, they will find our daughter. And then they'll tell us where she is, where she's living. They will find her. Okay? So that's the end of the video, and I appreciate, I can post it. It would be nice if the 22 million people in the province of Ontario had access to this video, along with all the other ones that the police and the government have illegally restricted by privatizing my videos, which, by the way, is another admission of guilt by the government of Canada and their territorial governments. The blocking of my videos from a wider audience due to forcing them to be listed by YouTube as private. This is a government cover-up. And this, again, points out to the fact that the government of Canada and their territorial governments are guilty. Only guilty governments block your videos from a larger audience by privatizing them against the policies of YouTube. YouTube has guidelines, and if your video violates their guidelines, believe me, they contact you right away by email, and they tell you, look, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, we've checked out your video. We have complaints. It does violate YouTube's guidelines, so therefore we're going to restrict it. That's not what happened here. Since when does YouTube not email me and inform me that they've made all my videos private? All my videos, Doug Ford, Trudeau, Poilievre, all my videos, all of them, including the ones, by the way, I've got videos posted about my machining equipment in my room. I've got a video posted that's about my model boat building, and that's the subject matter that was stuck to in the video. Why were they privatized? They privatized every single video, even the ones that had nothing to do with our case against Canada. I've got videos posted about this company in Toronto selling me intentionally a lemon metal lathe. It was a lemon. And I had to spend a lot of money ordering new parts for it that are accurate from AliExpress, which, by the way, arrived broken. They were mishandled by Canada. Packages were thrown. I can show people in video the damage to my metal melter. They threw the box around, breaking a part in it, which is critical. My tailstock I ordered from AliExpress, that box was thrown around. There's big dents in my cast iron tailstock. They tried to break that. Someone did this, okay, here in Canada. So I'm just telling you folks the truth. I got to go. God bless and have a nice day, and I appreciate those listening into this video. At the end of the day, Canada, you're not going to get away with this. And if you think, Mr. Trudeau, you and your Conservative colleagues, provincially and federally, if you gentlemen and women think, okay, that this case is not going to be opened up to international media, you're asking for it, okay? And I'm going to put in the request again to the Russian Federation, you understand, in Moscow, as well as their embassy here. Something has to be done to you people for what you're doing. And following me to the Russian embassy or police tracking me after I go there by listening in on our telephone is illegal. My wife and I, under international law, we have a right to contact any embassy here or any member state here. It's a part of international law. Every citizen of every democratic state has that right. Don't violate it. Stop violating that right. Thank you.